back to the Stick 'em Up podcast. Burundi, the favorites in one of the favorites, I should say, in the second round. Uh, they're getting bodied a little bit. To jump right into it.
I'm assuming you're talking about Carolina.
Yeah, well, considering it's 1-0 in the Vancouver series and then 1-1 for the other two. 3-0 Rangers lead the Hurricanes.
Yeah, I mean, this is okay, but this is a weird series though, because this is like the closest ever series that's 3-0 that I can remember. Like this could very easily be 3-0 for Carolina.
That's fair. It's it's been closer than it looks. At least have all of them gone to OT or just two of them?
Game 3 went to overtime. Game 2 went to double overtime, and Game 1 was 4-3 for the Rangers in regulation.
Yeah, so I mean,
all 1-goal games.
Yeah, and man, the Rangers just showing up. They're just showing up when they need to score those big goals. You know, a lot of people say that overtime's 50-50, and I definitely get that a lot more than, you know, a regulation win, but
yeah,
it's winners score those goals, and you know, Panarin with a great overtime winner tonight.
Yeah, very very quick ending, not like the last one that had to end up going to double.
No,
overtime.
I think there was 18 minutes or so left on the clock in overtime. Like it was within 2 minutes, I think.
Yeah, and the biggest difference maker in this series is special teams. The Rangers, I think their power play is 4 for like 11 or something, 4 for 12, and the Hurricanes are 0 for 15. They had 15 power play opportunities, and they've looked good on a couple of them, but getting no production from it. Even tonight, I believe it would have been the second period. Is that when Rangers kind of dogged them a bit? Yeah. So Rangers took a penalty, and I had to think at least 2 breakaways, and then Chris Kreider getting a shorthanded goal.
Great pass from I think it was
Zibanejad. Very nice pass. And again, it's just like, you know, Carolina's, I mean, to be fair, the Islanders penalty kill, I think it was 32 in the entire league at the end of the regular season. But like Carolina's power play dominated them, and, you know, going up against a good, strong, fast, aggressive penalty kill like the Rangers, just they don't know what to do.
Yeah, they're scrambling a good bit, and credit to the Rangers PK. I mean, obviously scoring tonight and just being able to shut them down 15 times in a row. Like that's, like when the numbers are that staggering, it's hard to say that's not a huge part of the problem, especially when the games otherwise have been so close.
Yeah, and I mean, a big part of it is Igor Shesterkin, who kind of had not a terrible game 1, but like obviously it wasn't terrific. But then the last 2 games, 9.47 save percentage, and then tonight 9.57. I mean, he's getting close to 50 shots. I think it was like 57-54, or sorry, 57-47 for the shots, and like he's stopping everything. Which, again, it's like we've talked about. You know, if a goalie gets hot and gets on a run, it doesn't matter who they're up against. They've got that team automatically has a very good chance of winning. And that's also a huge reason why, like, again, the Rangers are up 3-0, but it could very easily have been Carolina that's up 3-0.
Yeah, it definitely could. And yeah, like you said, all 3 games have been 1-goal games, whether regulation or OT. The Rangers won by 1 goal each time. If you get in games 2 or 3, if you get a single power play goal in the first 3 periods, you win that game. Like,
yeah,
they got to get that power play going. Gensel's doing his damnedest to try and will this team forward,
Yeah.
but down 3-0. That's pretty tough to come back from.
Especially
Hasn't
against,
happened a lot.
I mean, the President's Trophy team, a team as good as
Undefeated.
the Rangers are. Like, yeah, 7-0 in the playoffs right now, the way Shesterkin's playing, the way Rangers are dominating in the special teams area. I mean, Carolina might get 1, 2 is, I think, a stretch. Like, yeah, but it's just this Rangers team is so good. I just don't see them crumbling now. And
No. And it's making it look like it's going to be a real exciting Eastern Conference final,
yeah,
because before it was kind of, we were both, I think, of the opinion, it's safe to say, that the Panthers were going to walk out of the second round and then probably crush whoever comes out of the Hurricanes Rangers. But watching
that
the
was
teams that are
we did say that.
playing, if like assuming the Panthers get through, I still think they will, but currently the series is tied. If it's Panthers Rangers, that's a lot closer of a series than if you would have asked me a month ago.
Yeah. Yeah, it's completely different from what we kind of thought it was going to be. Like, honestly, on both sides, both East and West, I think we're going to get terrific matchups. The only thing I've left to talk about with the Rangers and Carolina is kind of what we're going to talk with later, with some of the movement of coaches around the league, is Rod Brendamore. I mean, I know that the Hurricanes have played good and it's been a very close series, but we have also heard reports. I don't know if they're 100% true, but there has been reports that the Hurricanes had an offer kind of in place or on the table for Rod Brendamore for an extension, and then apparently the deal was pulled.
So
Again,
the
don't know if
team
it's
extended
100%.
it, and then the team also took it back. Like, he didn't turn it
Is
down.
what I've been hearing. Yeah.
Right.
So, and I mean, it doesn't help now that they're down 3-0 in this. So it could be very interesting to see what Carolina does with Brendamore, who's made it very clear that he wants to stay there, and he doesn't have his sights set on going and coaching anywhere else or whatnot. Like, he wants to
Yeah.
stay with the Hurricanes, and rightfully so, totally understandable.
But I
I
think
mean,
we even might have touched on this before, but Seattle does have an opening, and
yeah,
is it Ron Francis is the GM over there?
yeah,
I mean, you know, hockey players love to stick together, so if there's not something super good there for him in Carolina, if it doesn't get done, it's one of those situations I think it will, but if it doesn't, he has a pretty clear direction that he could go.
I'm kind of on the fence. I think, like, if the Hurricanes get swept, I'm probably done. I mean, as good as they've been the last couple years, if you get swept 2 years in a row to get eliminated in the playoffs, that's really tough. But again, who knows? It's obviously I'm sure they're still gonna have discussions.
That's true. They have
Probably
been.
not at this point while the playoffs are on. It would be whenever, if they
Mhm.
keep winning and or well start winning again and win the cup, or if they get bounced after the next game. Once they're done in the playoffs is when they'll probably come back to the table and at least discuss the options.
Yeah. Yeah, the Hurricanes have kind of been, the Toronto Maple Leafs of the second and third round. They very consistently get through that first round over the past 6, 7 years, 8 years even, but
Yeah.
they have never got to the finals in recent memory. Not with this core at the very least. And uh yeah, they make it deep, and then they just can't get over the hump. They just have to get a little bit further, and 2 years in a row getting swept, yeah, I could see that. I could see that being enough.
Yeah, it's 2022. They went out in um, the third round, or sorry, the second round to the New York Rangers. So
What
I
was the
sorry,
what was the series score in that one?
What do you mean? They
Like
lost.
the games.
Oh,
Like,
that
did they
they
get swept?
nope. They went out in Game 7, and they came in as the
Ooh,
Metro 1 team, and the Rangers were the Metro 2. Um, so actually, they were the favorites in that as well.
yeah. Maybe it is time for a coaching change there.
Well, and I mean, it's it's like we're going to kind of talk about. It's very like the coaching is constantly changing around the league, like every day, with the amount of changes that have been happening. So
Yeah, and for the rest of this episode, we're mainly going to be talking about the other three series we haven't touched on yet, and then uh, the coaching changes that have happened, the firings, um, uh, the firings, the hirings, and the retirings. Actually, kind of have a bit of
yeah.
everything going on.
So
Um,
here's I did find it. So it was back in the 2019 playoffs is when they got swept in the conference finals by the Bruins. The following year, they did win their qualifying round, but I don't count that as part of the playoffs. Um, and then they lost in the first round of the Bruins in 5 games. The following year, lost in the second round in 5 games to Tampa. So, I mean, it's like they've only had one series that went to 7 with the Rangers where it was like when they lost, it was like, you know, a close series every other time. They're going out in 4 or 5,
yeah,
which,
yeah,
I don't know. Take that for what it's worth, but
yeah. Like
I
you
think
said,
it
all
just
three
makes it more
games this series
interesting.
have been 1 goal games. It's been close, but can you just go back for the last 7 years and say, "Oh, it was close, it was close, it was close"? Like
Yeah.
at some point, you got to win.
Yeah. Like if at the beginning of the season, if um, you know, you like if you asked me about Brendan Moore's future with the Hurricanes, I would have thought he would have been there, extension signed and he'll be there for at least a couple more years. But now it's I don't know. It's possible, but I think it's about a 50-50 for what
Yeah,
what happens with that. Because I do like him as a coach, but like again, it's
at some
if it's
point,
not
something's got to happen.
working, yeah, and especially because he's been there for a while, so it kind of can make a bit more sense. It's not like, they brought him in, he was there for 1 or 2 years type of thing. Like sometimes it doesn't work and you gotta part ways.
Um, do you have another series that you want to jump into talking about right away?
Um,
What's your heart say?
ki- kind of. I'm okay with. We could wrap up the East if we want.
Sure.
Just wrap up with Florida and Boston because I don't have a whole lot on this one. Like it's um
I will say the Bruins are giving much more of a fight than I thought they would.
yeah,
Obviously in that first game, 5-1 win, massive win for them. When a lot of
yeah.
people thought the Panthers were going to dummy them, the Panthers walloped them back pretty good the next game. But um,
I mean, yeah, 6-1, and that's
the
really getting
Bruins did
through on
not look
Swayman.
afraid. The Bruins did not look afraid of them at all. There's been plenty of clips going around of Brad Marchand absolutely laying out Kachuk in the corner. Great hit.
Yeah,
And then Pasternak going over and asking Jim Montgomery, the head coach, and saying, "Hey, do you mind if I fight Matthew Kachuk?" And he's like,
yeah,
"Yeah." And he goes out there and he fights him. And
yeah.
like, dude, like that's I in my opinion, I think we know who the captain should be after Marchand now.
I
I
would
I think
assume
I
so.
think a lot of people thought it would be McAvoy, but dude,
Yeah,
the things he said in the press about how much he loves the team, going out there and doing shit like that, that's what a captain does. That's good stuff.
yeah. Like obviously, you can still make a case for McAvoy, and I'd be like, yeah, he's a great choice. But I mean, Pasternak
Yeah.
kind of does seem like you know the front runner
Yeah.
for it once Marchand, you know, I'm assuming just retires, he like not move on because I don't think he'll
Yeah.
ever play anywhere else. But
Yeah. I think it's a
yeah,
good
I would agree.
option versus a better option.
Yeah,
Kind of, like McAvoy would be a good captain, but like I think the way he's acting right now, Pasternak screams captain to me at the moment. And then
yeah,
post game, of course, saying like, "Yeah, I'll fight him. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of Kachuk." Like he was kind of letting him have it a little bit. Like,
yeah,
and that was a spirited fight. Like I wouldn't say either of them really won. They both got a couple punches in. They went to the ground, but then Kachuk took a couple cheap shots while Pasternak was down. I know a lot of people really did not like that because
Yeah, I did. I
once the
did
guys
notice
are on
that.
the ice, you're not supposed to keep punching. And Kachuk got a couple extras, and then he fell down, and then well, you reap what you sow. Pasternak gave him a few while he was down on the ice,
Yeah.
because Kachuk fell down. So they kind of both, gave it to each other a bit afterwards. Um,
And
this
and this is,
I think
mean,
this series is only going to get chippier. I think these are going to
yeah,
be really fun games to watch.
and this extends even from last year. Got a little chippy here and there between these two teams, and especially like with Boston coming in now. They don't forget what happened last year, having, you know, was it the greatest regular season or one of?
Yep.
Oh, it was the, and so then
As
getting
far as
embarrassed
wins
in,
go, like yeah,
yeah, and then getting embarrassed in the first round and going out to the Florida Panthers. So they didn't like that, and so obviously it's all coming back
yeah.
to them now again this year. It
Ruined
means
Patrice
that much
Bergeron's
more.
final season. Like
Yeah, and Krejci.
yeah, like that sticks with the team. That guy is like he's the heart and soul of the team even after he retired. Like everyone knows Bergeron in that
Yeah,
locker room, and they all revere him so much. Like especially guys like Marchand, I bet that pisses them off quite a bit, and they really want to throw it back in the Panthers' face. So,
yeah,
and they're playing like it.
yeah. I completely agree. And again, like you said, this series I think is only going to get more intense as it goes on. It's next game is now going back to Boston. So now Bruins have some home ice advantage, and if things get fired up again, they're going to have the crowd behind them this time. And we'll see what happens. Both goalies have, you could even say that they've been the best two goalies
I would say they have been so
in the
far in the
playoffs.
playoffs, but
Yeah,
not so far in this series.
but it's like both had an off game, and then they both had one where they were really strong in that game.
That's fair.
So I'm very curious now in game three is do they both like lock in, and maybe we see a really low scoring game.
Yeah, maybe we see Allmark start. Who knows?
I don't think no.
I don't think they should, but
No.
they pulled him in game 2.
Well, I mean, you might as well when it's turning into that. Just pull him and let him get some rest, and no point leaving him out there when just things aren't going. Just let him rest up and get ready for the next one.
Yeah.
I think.
But I don't think they don't treat him like the starter there. They treat him like the 1A in the tandem.
Hey, but you know what? He's been the guy so far in the playoffs for him, and I think now that you're in the second round after one loss, I don't think you scramble. I think you stick with
I
him
would hope
because
not.
Swayman's the reason you got out of round one.
Yeah.
So I don't think you're doing yourself any favors by pulling him out now.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of all I had for that series there. So
Yeah.
we can move
Let's
to
talk
the
about
West.
the Stars and the Avalanche.
All right.
We just before we started recording, we wait until all the games of the day finish and then we record. And Brundy texted me after the second period and said, "After this game, are you ready to record the podcast?" And I said, "Yep." And I hope Dallas doesn't blow this lead. At the end of the second, they were up 4-0, and the game ended up ending 5-3 for the Stars. So they did still win, but
And it
for a
was with
second
an
there,
empty net goal too.
yeah, for a second there, it
Dallas.
looked like it might happen again because that
I
first
thought it
game where they
was.
gave up 4 straight goals to lose to the Avs was brutal. If they gave up 2 of those at home, that'd be so bad.
Yeah, I was pretty confident that there was no way Dallas was blowing this one. And then once it got 4-3, I really started to think that all right, Colorado's tying this. And then Colorado, pulls their goal, and then they get a power play, and then it was just like, man, like they're actually like they're gonna tie this up. Like it's going to overtime, which would have then pushed this back. And but I mean, Dallas held on. They were able to kill the penalty and then seal it with an empty netter. I mean, they got to be happy they won, but they got to be like really sitting there and being
We
like,
need to
"Holy
learn how
shit!"
to play
Like,
with a lead.
yeah, like it's you can't. And I don't even know if I mean, it's hard to tell because Colorado's just they come in waves, so it's hard to tell if Dallas, if it's just a momentum shift or if Dallas is starting to kind of sit back once they've got a lead.
Yeah, that park the
And they're
bus
not,
mentality.
yeah. And if that's what they're doing, like they need to stop because they're gonna get burned. Like
Do
they
you think it's
managed to get
players that
lucky
do
tonight,
that?
but
Is it players that go, "We have a 3-goal lead, let's try and keep it," or does the coach say, "Let's play defensively"? I
I
feel like
I honestly have no clue.
because I feel like it's such a common thing to be like, nobody wants their team to park the bus and do that. Everyone's like, "Hey, it's 4-0. We are 4 goals better than them after 2 periods. Just keep playing like this and surely we'll win," right? Uh,
Yeah.
so is it the coach? Is it the players? Is it not even a a decision they make? It's just like they start playing like that out of habit or something. Like
I,
I do really want to
um
know, like, is it an active decision a coach is making or something to stay back, don't chase the pucks, play defensively? Because dude, we all know as hockey fans it doesn't work. You gotta just keep playing your game that got you there.
my guess is it's like a subconscious thing. And it's like when you get that 3-goal lead, which they do say is the worst lead in hockey. Um and I think it's just like once you get that 3-goal lead, you start to sit there and be like, all right, we've gotten, and you just start kind of thinking more of, okay, we got to keep playing good defense though, so they don't start to score. And then it becomes just a kind of a subconscious thing where you're spending way more time thinking about in your own end than going and, continuing to score. Because it's just weird when you see it like back-to-back games like this. Well, even the Edmonton Vancouver game that we'll talk about, like just a lot of collapses, and it's very interesting. Again, could even just be a momentum shift with how good these teams are, specifically teams like, well, all of them, because of the heavy star power they have up front that can easily take over a game when they want.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, hey, it's 1-1. Dallas is, at least they're not down two like last series going into Colorado. It's even now, and I mean, it kind of feels like a series. I mean, going at least 6 or 7. Um,
Yep.
but it's
I think it'll at least go 6. They both these teams look very strong.
yeah,
I can't even begin to predict who's going to win. Something about the way it's going makes me feel like the Avalanche might take it, but
I
this
mean, it's so
it's a
tough to
good Stars
say. I
team.
can't, like, obviously I'm pulling for the Stars here.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, it's a 50-50. I think I still think this series could go either way. It could even potentially come down to one goal in the end. Um, but it's fantastic. Like, you're getting great action from start to end. Like, there's never a dull moment between these two teams.
Yeah. And no lead is safe in any of these series, it seems like.
Yeah.
Um Another thing I wanted to point out, he did score a goal tonight. Yoel Kiviranta now playing
Oh,
for
I thought
the
you were gonna say someone
Avalanche
else.
against the Stars.
Yeah, I noticed he did get one tonight, which was, I think, their first goal. And then, you're still down by 3 in the third period, so they weren't really too excited or thrilled about it. But it kick-started what was almost potentially another huge comeback for the Avalanche. But with the Dallas Stars, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it did hold up for yeah, it did hold up for the game winner. Tyler Seguin finally getting on the board, scoring his first of the playoffs. A guy who shorthanded goal as well, by the way. Um, I thought he
Against
had a
an
really good,
Avs power play? That's pretty good.
yeah, and I thought he had a really good first round against Vegas. I believe he had the most shots of any player in the playoffs without scoring a goal up until tonight. I mean, he's always just all over the place. Like 3 shots, 1, 4, 3, 3, 4, 3, 4, 3 throughout the playoffs. So like he's was shooting a lot, but just nothing was going his way. And for him to finally get one tonight is a huge relief for him, and hopefully maybe kickstarting an onslaught of goals from Sagan now.
Yeah, he every time Tampa Bay plays him, because obviously I watch the majority of the Tampa Bay games. Whenever they would play Dallas, I would always think like Fuck, people talk about Sagan like he's washed, like because he's not quite that guy that we thought he'd be when he was drafted, or maybe he's not that guy as much anymore. But he he's still really good, and he always looks dangerous with the puck, especially in that
Yeah.
offensive zone. So yeah, if he can start turning it on while all these other guys are, I'd like to see some production out of Pavelski as well.
Yeah, Pavelski's
He's
had a
played
rough
very well, but he
go so far.
very similar. Nothing's been going in for him. Um, if they could get a couple more of those guys going, like, and that's the thing. That's with this Dallas team. We've talked so much about their depth. They have these guys not putting up like good numbers or really any numbers in those two scenarios, and they've still been able to be 1-1 in their second round against the Avs and beat the reigning Stanley Cup champions in the Golden Knights. Like they have the depth that they can make up for it in other areas. And
Yeah.
that might be the difference against a very top heavy Avalanche team.
The thing also with Dallas, and this kind of goes back to how like some people say Sagan's kind of washed. I think it's more so his production now as opposed to like when he signed his big contract. Because it is kind of impressive with Dallas that they're as good as they are, and um, Tyler Sagan's making a little bit just under 10 million, and Jamie Benn's making 9.5. Obviously, they're still good players, but not worth that much money. Like that's like
Yeah.
superstar level money. And the fact that they're as good as they are while paying those guys that much, I think is actually really impressive.
Yeah. And
The other
you
thing,
make, especially getting that, it really helps when you have guys making 950K on their ELC, like Wyatt Johnston.
yeah. Another thing that's really impressive with Dallas, but also kind of worrisome the further they go on, is the fact that they're basically playing with only 5 defensemen, which means their top guys are like logging a lot of minutes.
Yeah.
Because their sixth defenseman is Nils Lundqvist, who they got from the New York Rangers. And his time on ice so far in the playoffs, this is starting from game 1 against Vegas up until the game tonight. So he played 7.5 minutes in game 1. He played 10 minutes in game 2 against Vegas. Game 3, he played 2:21. Game 4, he played 1 minute and 9 seconds. Game 5, he played 2 minutes and 57 seconds. Game 6, 4:33. Game 7, 3:09. And then game 1 against the Avs, 4:07. And then tonight, 5:26.
That's actually insane because
Dude is just
I don't
not playing.
I don't
Like,
remember which goal it was, but it was a big goal. Maybe it was one that they lost in OT against Vegas, or maybe it was one of the goals that the Avs scored in their comeback the other day. But Lundqvist was out there for the goal against, and he got absolutely torched by whoever went around him. I don't remember who
yeah.
or even what team it was, but someone had the puck and they just walked him.
Yeah.
So
I think
to
like
to
we
get
see
beat
him get
that
moved.
bad while playing 3 minutes out of 60 a night,
Yeah.
that's bad.
It's almost like
You
he's
got to
on a
be
leash
playing
and
your
it's
best when you're out there that little.
well, and at this point, like what like do you actually have no one else that you can put in? Like it almost feels like Lundqvist, it's like at the start of a game, it's like, okay, you're playing, but as soon as you make one mistake, we're shutting you down.
Yeah.
It feels like he
At
plays
that
a little
point,
bit and then it's just he's shut down.
yeah. At that point, pull up some guys from the AHL and be like, "Let's see what you can do. We're gonna play
I mean,
you
it
for.
can't
We're
be
gonna play.
worse.
Yeah, we're gonna play
Worst
you
case
for
scenario, you sit
Nils
the kid.
3 minutes. Yeah, we're gonna play you for Nils 3 minutes of ice time a night. Don't be a minus. Can you handle that? And you go
Yeah.
from there. Like,
Yeah. And also with the defense, I mean, still blows my mind that Calgary wasn't able to get a first round pick for Chris Tanev. Like the
yeah,
fact Dallas gave up what they did for Tanev, who he played 30 minutes in the overtime game against Vegas, but like he's played like 20 plus minutes, getting up to 25 almost in some games a night for them. Like, and doing what he does defensively, like still one of the best defensive defense in the league is like, it's just nuts that Calgary wasn't able to get a first round pick for him.
yeah. That was really tough in my opinion. I thought for sure there would be a first rounder out there for him.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's so many things with this Dallas team that's just crazy.
Yeah. Speaking of
You
their
know, through
defense,
their run.
Heiskanen getting 2 goals tonight, I believe.
Yeah,
Pretty
he
big from a blue
he had a
liner.
really good game. Um, and even the Avs, they still look dangerous. So
Val Nichushkin is a goal scoring machine right now.
yeah, yeah. He does. He's just does not stop scoring right now, and that's so huge for Colorado. Like the fact that it was a 5-3 game and it's Rantanen, McKinnon, Makar didn't between all three of them. You could even throw Taves in there if you want. Didn't register a point at all, and it was still a 4-3 game with a minute left.
Yeah, Nichushkin with 9 goals in the playoffs so far.
Yeah, he's gonna have to stay hot for them, and again, if those their big players heat up, Dallas could be in trouble if they can't hold on to a lead.
Yeah, that's one actual collapse and one scary looking win.
So, fun fact and this will lead into the next part. In game one, obviously the Dallas Stars had a 3-0 lead after the first period and ended up losing the game. And so they blew a three or more goal lead for the 7th time ever in the playoffs, which tied them for the most losses in playoff history when leading by 3 or more goals.
That tied them in history, like all
Yeah.
time?
Yeah, all-time history for most playoff losses after leading by 3 or more goals.
Yikes.
And do you know what team they tied?
Who's blowing those? I mean, the easy answer is to say the Leafs. Is it? I don't know. Why
No.
do I think it's the Oilers?
It is the Edmonton Oilers, who the very following night had a 3-goal lead against the Canucks, and they lost that game. So now Edmonton moves back into sole possession.
Oh, and then they
of
retook
most.
their
Yeah.
their bad record.
They wanted that record back, which then now leads into the Oilers Canucks series, which only one game has been played so far. And
What a game.
What a game one it was. I mean,
That arena was
all over the
it
place.
was rocking. It was so good in that last 10 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, very energetic crowd going in. Energy was really pulled away early on. Is the one thing we said about the Canucks is you cannot take penalty. Like you cannot take penalties against Edmonton and how good their power play is. Which Edmonton right now has the best power play in NHL history, beating their power play from last year. So their power play is even better. And what do the Canucks do? A too many men penalty 40 seconds into the game.
Not just a penalty that soon in, which is bad enough, but a too many men penalty? You're telling me the bench did this? Dude.
Yeah.
The coach more than anyone should know you got to not take that penalty.
Yeah. And then obviously the best power play player in the world, Zach Hyman, scores in front of the net and 1-0, and then came 2-0
right away.
And then eventually you're 7 minutes left in the second period and the Canucks are down 4-1, and it was rough scenes there. It was not good there right now for the fans. Zach Hyman as well, scoring the 4th goal. He has 9 in the playoffs.
He also has 9. Yeah, him and Nichushkin are at 9. The next highest is a couple guys tied at 5.
Yeah, like that just shows you what
those two are on another level, goal scoring wise.
And 2 guys that just drive the net hard and win those battles.
Those are the playoff goals.
And then Lindholm gets one back. Huge, Flames players were coming alive for the Canucks tonight. They really don't like the Oilers. Lindholm and then JT Miller getting a really nice goal. And then Zadorov blasted one from the point, and then Connor Garland pulling off the fake slapper and from a really crazy angle, putting one home.
Goalie didn't even see it. He was
Not
so
long
confused.
after.
You don't see usually when it's such a one-on-one with a player, at least for the most part, like you don't usually see like a fake shot work. But like
Yeah.
he clearly knew that that wasn't the actual shot, but then he didn't see the second shot.
Yeah.
I don't think he even saw it. All of a sudden it was in the back of the net.
And
Massive game for
Vancouver,
Dakota Joshua with a goal and 2 assists.
Yeah. And he started off.
The arena was chanting for JT Miller so loud after his goal in the third.
Yeah.
I don't know
Also,
if you saw
one
the
thing with
clips going around,
Dakota.
but that was good.
Yeah, one thing with Dakota Joshua actually that you mentioned. So this is like his first. Like he played one game a couple years ago with the Blues in the playoffs, but this was like his first actual playoff run. And like it's pretty impressive. Game one against Nashville, 2 shots on goal. He had 2 goals, an assist. He was a +3. And then game one against Edmonton, he goes out there, 2 shots on goal, 1 goal, 2 assists, a +3. So I mean, and not to mention game one against Nashville, he had 6 hits, and game one against Edmonton, he had 8 hits. So like some dudes come alive in games, like some guys are Mr. Game 7. Dakota Joshua might be Mr. Game 1.
Hey, you know what? Getting up on them early in the series is never a bad thing.
He makes his presence known right off the hop, and that's awesome. Like if you've got a guy like that who can take over the first game of a series, it's nice knowing you're going to be up 1-0 at least at the beginning of series.
Yeah. One thing else I will say, just because we were talking about it with the power play, Vancouver all game took 4 penalty minutes, 2 penalties,
and one of them was offsetting. Zadorov cross-checking, got a cross-check in when, and Draisaitl got a slash when they're kind of going at it. So really, the Canucks actually only put themselves shorthanded once.
Right at the start, that got capitalized on.
Yeah.
But it was the bench. It wasn't even the players. So
yeah. Also, one thing for
what do you do? Do you have Captain Quinn sit down your coach and say, "Hey, listen, we need better from you"?
I mean, you could.
I don't want to see you taking dumb penalties like that again.
You could. One thing I want to double check, because sometimes this skews it and it has the wrong person sitting for someone else. So obviously, Adam Henrique did not suit up for the Oilers game one, who was a big part of their team in round one versus the Kings, and Connor Brown came in, and I just want to double check here. So Connor, he had 1 penalty because it's showing that he had 2, but the other one he was just serving for Stuart Skinner for delay of game. So I mean, Connor Brown, he did take 1 penalty, but that's not good when you're coming in and filling in a spot for a guy. You can't be doing stuff like that first game in.
Yeah, you can't be a very blatant liability when you're a fringe guy. That's how you end up not being a fringe guy at all.
Yeah, but
Draisaitl also apparently day to day, it sounds like Adam Henrique is planning on dressing with the team tomorrow if Draisaitl doesn't play. At least that's what it looked like, I guess, at their practice today.
I imagine Draisaitl will be playing. I don't see him sitting.
We've seen him put up 2 points per game in the playoffs on a single leg before. So
yeah,
whatever it is, I'm sure he'll be able to play through it, unless it's something.
It sounds like it was just back cramps that he was having. Muscle cramps in his back, which maybe there's more to it. But if that is what it is, like I do fully expect him to play in game 2. That does take place tomorrow. But I don't have much more to say on it. Again, we're only one game in, so it's huge comeback by the Canucks. And
do you feel blue-balled by the NHL as much as I do? Like, why is this series so far behind? We're already 3 games in with the Rangers and Hurricanes.
Because it sounds like there was some stuff that was booked in for what is it? Is it Rogers Arena? They're called. Is that what they are?
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, it sounds like they had some stuff already booked there, so they had to wait until that was done. I think it was like concerts and whatnot. So they actually had to wait. So people obviously made the jokes that the Canucks, they didn't have faith that they were even going to make the playoffs, so they started already letting people book in come playoff time. So that's why this one is starting quite late, which kind of does make it a bit weird. Like the fact that the Rangers Hurricane series could be done and Canucks and Oilers could be 1-1 is pretty.
Yeah.
It's pretty rough. I mean, sweeps like it, but like still. Like Rangers could have a lot of time off if they clean it up next game. Cleaning it up by sweeping, by the way. If you got the joke.
Sweeping them up.
All right. That was awful. Let's move on to some coaches here. The coach carousel.
Yeah. Which one do you want to talk about first? Do you want to talk about the guy who got fired, the guy who got hired, or the guy who retired?
Yo, that was good. That was really good. Let's start off with the one that's just there's not a lot to talk about with it. Rick Bowness, Winnipeg's head coach, has retired. I mean, great career by him. Obviously,
Yeah, I can't remember.
Season didn't go the way they wanted, but
he coached like 2,800 games in his career or something like that. Like,
definitely not as a head coach. I can pull it up here.
Yeah, I'm looking to find it. Coaching stats, because every coach has played 3 games in the NHL before.
Has been coaching in the NHL since 1984.
Yeah. His 2,726 games as an NHL head or assistant coach are the most by anyone in league history.
Yeah. That makes more sense, as a head or assistant coach. Because he bounced around like a lot. Even taking Dallas to the Stanley Cup final in his first year as taking over as head coach.
Yeah. Yeah, never was able to coach to a cup after over 2,700 games. That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's too bad because he was a good coach wherever he went, really. And best of luck to him in a retirement, I guess. That's too bad. I don't know if a lot of coaches go into other stuff when they retire. Like, I guess quite a few of them go into like a GM role, but
a lot of people have talked about the possibility of him, going on TV and being part of like the panels and whatnot. A lot of people have thought that he would be like really good in that, just because he sees the game in such a unique way, and his favorite thing is teaching people and bringing insight, and obviously he would be really good at that. So there's a possibility for that, or maybe he just wants to enjoy a nice quiet retirement and whatnot.
Because he was the one who 1 or 2 off seasons ago, people didn't know if he was going to retire then, right? And they were like, is he going to sign? Is he going to come back? Or is he just going to retire? So I guess it's kind of been writing on the walls for a bit,
Yeah. Some people did think he was going to retire. And I think that's when he made the decision to, it was after he was done with Dallas. And then he decided to go to Winnipeg, and obviously did have a lot of regular season success with Winnipeg, but none
regular season success than they've had in a bit. So
yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what Winnipeg does now, who is, I believe they're one of five teams left. 1, 2, yeah. So it's the Winnipeg Jets, the New Jersey Devils, the Sharks, the Kraken, and the Maple Leafs are the 5 teams that currently do not have a head coach.
Yeah. But for the hired coach, Ottawa Senators hired Travis Green as their new head coach. They signed him to a 4-year deal. Generally doesn't matter how long the deal is for a coach, because unlike with the players, you can just fire a coach whenever. But
even when they got an extension in place.
Yeah, we'll get to him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind this hire by Ottawa.
Where was Travis Green last as a head coach?
I believe, he was a He was with Vancouver a couple years ago. Actually, probably more than a couple years ago. That was actually probably quite a little while ago.
I was gonna say
And then
because
he
there was
was with
Boudreaux.
he was with the New Jersey Devils last year as an assistant coach and came in as the interim head coach. And then before that, he
Right.
was the head coach of the started as an assistant coach with the Portland Winterhawks, then became the head coach. Following year became head coach of the Utica Comets, which is Vancouver's AHL team, and then was head coach of the Canucks for about 5.5 years. Only
Okay.
making the playoffs once, in which they went out in the second round, which I believe was that was the COVID year.
Yeah, that was the
That
Demko
was the
year.
bubble. Yeah. But he did win the WHL championship with the Portland Winterhawks in 2012, 2013. So, and then lost in the finals in his
So he's
second
got
year with the Utica
something there.
Comets. So he's got some success in the playoffs under his belt in his kind of short career that I think could still have a lot of tenure to it. I don't mind it for Ottawa, honestly.
Looking at his coaching record, I mean, so he's never been on great teams, but these don't inspire a ton of confidence.
But why not? This is what we've been wanting. Like everybody always keeps saying, like, you know, oh, the NHL just recycles the same head coaches, like, you know, do something new. And then
But
when
this
Ottawa
guy
goes
has
and brings
coached in
in,
the league, and he was
but
not
like,
very good.
barely.
He's coached 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years as a head coach, or at the very least an interim head coach in the NHL. Only one of those seasons is his points percentage above 500.
But like we just said, not good teams.
They're not bottoming teams either, though.
No, but
He had
people
a
are like,
point this year for when he was the head coach of the Devils. In 21 games, he had a .405 points percentage.
but dude, that New Jersey team was bad, like defensively and no goaltending. Like they just made the coaching change, hoping to be a Hail Mary and they'd find their way into the playoffs.
I just don't see why you would hire him when there's so many other good coaches still available right now.
But that's the
Like,
thing. People are like, why didn't they get Craig Berube or Todd McClellan? It's like, well,
yeah,
but then they're just grabbing coaches that were just fired from somewhere else. Like this is a kind of outside the box hire and a guy that they think can really fit in well with what they're building. I mean,
I
think you got to give it a chance at least.
yeah, but I think it would have been a lot safer to go with a guy that we know is a good coach like Craig Berube, or at least try and get Berube. And if he decides to go wherever,
maybe
then
Berube didn't. I
then
know they
still
did
hit up
interview
Reed.
him. They did interview Berube, but I mean, I don't mind. I don't mind this for
With a team with such a storied history over the last decade of having bad coaches and bad, office and ownership in general. This doesn't scream different. This screams very similar to the other Senators hires that we've seen not work out to me. I'd love to be proven wrong. Maybe he'll come out and he'll have all new ideas, turn this team around, because I think they got the talent that they could turn it around. They just haven't.
Because I mean, like I'm going and looking at
maybe he'll make that change.
Like you're talking about the Canucks teams that he. So his first year, which was his first year ever coaching the NHL, I'm not going to count that year, which was the last year of Henrik and Daniel Sedin, which is nuts to think that it's been that long. But like his second year of coaching, the fourth leading scorer on the team was Alex Edler with 34. And next was Anton Roussel with 31. The next year, fifth on the team in scoring was Tanner Pearson with 45. And then the next year, like, I guess that was the COVID year, so that year was kind of weird. But like, I feel like he hasn't had a great team yet and hasn't been given a shot. And if he's a guy that can coach a bunch of young kids to win a WHL championship, I mean, you got to think he can get some success out of the young guys that Ottawa's
10
got.
years ago. I don't know how much that carries. Like
You don't lose your coaching.
Not being able to get anything out of the Vancouver Canucks in 2020 and 2021, those 2 years, they had good teams. Like they've been a underachieving team for a while that it felt like they should be putting it together. So he did coach there for a bit of when I was always going, this is going to be the year the Canucks actually become a contender. And they just like keep picking top 10 again because they keep not doing it.
Like when you got Louis Eriksson, Tanner Pearson, your top 6, I mean, you can't be expecting great results. I don't know. I think we got to give it a chance at least.
I'll give him a chance. I just don't love the signing right now. I think there was better guys available.
And that's totally fair. I mean, obviously we're going to have to wait quite a while here before the next regular season to find out, but I'm excited to see what
we're not new to having takes age badly.
Oh yeah, we're no strangers to that. That is for sure.
We love that kind of stuff.
And then the last one, the firing of Sheldon Keefe today.
Yeah, the Toronto Maple Leafs fired their head coach Sheldon Keefe following another disappointing postseason, and yeah, everyone saw this coming. Like, there have been rumors that Marner's going to get traded. There have been rumors that Shanahan, the head of hockey ops, is going to get fired by Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment. But those ones have always been more rumors. They might happen. Pretty much everyone knew Keefe was gone, though. Despite him having a extension that would have kicked in this July 1st. So,
yeah. I kind of expected this. I mean, he's good regular season,
so much, but
again, no results.
We talked about him a little bit. Was that earlier on the show, or was that before we started recording?
Before we even started.
Yeah, we were talking about, like, is he a good head coach? Because like he gets a lot out of his players in the regular season, but he doesn't get much out of them in the postseason. But in the postseason, he definitely gets out-coached by most other coaches. Like, he's always losing the lineup battles, the matchup battles. So it's a weird question. Like, just to straight up say, is he a good coach? I have no idea. Like, a good amount of evidence points to no, and a lot of it seems like because like if you look at his record with the Leafs in the regular season, they had like, I don't even know if he lost 100 regular season games with them in regulation. Like I'll bring up Sheldon Keefe's stats here.
I'm not 100% sure, but I mean, it's just one of those things where it's like, again, he can get you to the he can have a great regular season and a lot of success, but come playoff time, it could be a thing of, it's maybe not on him, it's more on the players than him. When you're looking at how some of them perform the playoffs, like it's, so I don't know if it's entirely on Keefe, but again, it's one of those things where you've tried it and you keep trying and it's not working. Like you got to change something up. Like you can't just be like, all right, we're going to keep the same coach, the same GM and the same group, and we're going to just try again. It's at this point now you can't with how many years it hasn't worked. So I'm very curious to see what happens with Keefe, whether he goes somewhere else.
Looking at these stats, this is a coach I would want to hire. Like, obviously, looking only at the stats, right? And not the situation they're in. But for points percentage since 2019 season, 628, 688, 701, 677, and a 622 for Sheldon Keefe with the Leafs. He's also a good bit younger than I thought. He is not even 44 years old yet. He is 43 right now. So, like, he could very easily still be coaching the league for another 20 years. So, I will not be too shocked when a team goes out and picks him up.
I'm very curious to see
where he goes. I still think he might end up in Pittsburgh.
I don't think so. Like, I know, obviously,
loves his dudes.
But Dubas and like he brought Spezza in, and then now he's gone out and brought Bunting back, and now maybe Keefe. But I feel like if Mike Sullivan, who is now like he's been the second longest tenured head coach in the league, I feel like if Pittsburgh was going to fire him, like they would have already like done when like the regular season ended, and they were kind of doing their
fair.
exit interviews and their clean out. Like, it doesn't make sense to just out of nowhere be like, all right, now we're going to fire you. I feel like it would have already happened. It kind of makes sense, maybe just because they did come up short of the playoffs, but I think they still had a successful regular season, kind of, in terms of like they didn't, drop out and do a bottom 10 team. Like, they were in the fight right till the end, basically. And he's still getting great production out of, Crosby and the rest of the group. So I don't think Mike Sullivan's gone, but if he does, Sheldon Keefe very well might go to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it's wild. I'm just looking now. Actually, you know what? Let's do this. I gotta. We'll call it trivia here for you. Who is the 5th longest tenured head coach in the NHL?
I saw this today, and it's really weird because it feels like he just got hired the other day, and that's Martin St. Louis with the Canadiens.
He's actually 6th, but
not now with Sheldon Keefe.
Even that's wild.
Gone.
Is he? Nope.
Because Keefe was longer than St. Louis. So is Keefe gone now? St. Louis.
No, even Keefe's. This came out after Keefe got fired.
Who's the top 5 then?
So I figure you can guess the rest of the top 5. Obviously, John Cooper, 2013. Mike Sullivan, 2015. Jared Bednar, 2016. Rod Brind'Amour, 2018. Andre Tourigny of the Arizona Coyotes and now / Utah, 2021. So that's, I would not have expected the Arizona Coyotes coach to
I guess technically, no, because they're wiping away all Coyotes like from Utah. So technically he's now like the first head coach in Utah history. So his tenure's technically restarted by accounts of where he's been a head coach. Like in terms of having a job, because that's the one I was going off of, is he's now restarted because he's technically with a new franchise. So, I mean, in terms of having a job, then he would be in the top 5. But like still, like what was it? 18 head coaches have been fired since 18 head coaching changes since the end of last season.
Yeah. That's insane. 18. There's only 32 teams in the league. 18 of them fired their head coach?
Yeah.
That's actually crazy.
Like, what's the point of, like, again, look at the Travis Green. What's the point of a 4-year deal? Like, at least just do 2 years, and then if it doesn't work after 2 years, you let them go.
Are they guaranteed that money?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Like, if you fire them, you like pay them out, but there's no salary cap because it's a coach? Like,
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Is more years just kind of a incentive to get them to come in?
I think so, yeah.
And you know what?
I think they do got to pay
Good for them in Ottawa, because you know what? Their old management would not have... would not have shelled out money to get a guy to come there. So...
Yeah, most definitely not. But, like, I mean, there's only 5, open positionings as of right now that could like, the only team I think that would make a head coaching change that's still left in the playoffs is Carolina, potentially, maybe if they get swept. Like, every other coach is safe. So right now there's 5 open positions, potentially 6. I don't think there's any other coaches it sounds like is going to be canned or anything. Like, it seems like it's just going to be these 5 and then potentially a 6 if Carolina and Brind'Amour part ways. So not a lot of spots open. So there's going to be some guys that are going to wind up without a job. Because who do we got now? We got Keefe. We got Berube, Woodcroft, McClellan. If you include Brind'Amour, that's...
Yeah, I'm just Googling up all the free agent coaches.
And like, there's got to be more that, like, I'm just not... I mean, if you want to count Bruce Boudreau, who... I don't know if he's ever going to come back to coaching.
I was going to say, I don't think most people do at this point. I always include him just because he's a likable guy. I like the idea of it. But yeah, like Lane Lambert, Dave Hackstall.
Oh yeah, yeah,
DJ Smith, David Quinn. You
yeah.
got
Like when you look at how many there is,
Dallas
it's
Eakins, Gerard Gallant. There's still some names out there.
and I don't know if it was the Sharks, but I did talk about them before. How with Ryan Warsofsky, I don't know what the team was, but it has been confirmed that a team has interviewed him for their head coaching spot. So like there's and then there even David Carl. I don't know if he's sticking with um, Denver or if he's looking to make the jump to the NHL. Like there's a lot of guys out there and not many spots open.
One thing I want to highlight, just because I searched it up and an ESPN article came up, so that it's one of those things where they've got the tiers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the top, it says the big one. This is for free agent like coach candidates. So they got the big one, their S plus tier, Craig Berube, and then they've got a couple other different ones, with Rod Brind'Amour and Sheldon Keefe in there. And then way down at the bottom is looking for that second chance. And they've got a bunch of, it looks like uh, kind of guys who have not had a job for a few years, assistant coaches and the like. One of them on there is Jeff Blashill. This is a guy who has been the assistant coach for Tampa Bay since Detroit fired him in 2022. And everyone in the Tampa Bay fan base wants us to can this dude. He has gutted our defensive play. We do not have as good of a defensive roster as we did, but the system is clearly less good than it was. So I'm interested in the fact that they say he's going to leave we're not going to fire him. He's going to leave this assistant coaching job to go be a head coach somewhere.
Yeah,
That
I don't see him.
that might be scary. Like I think that's a lot of just them speculating. I don't think there's any rumors behind this, but that's the way we play defensively. That's a scary thought of him being a head coach of a team.
Yeah.
I would not look forward to the team trying that
Oh
out.
yeah. Another player who I've heard, yes, player because he was a former player, but another guy that I've heard as a potential option for some teams is Joel Ward, who was the head coach for the Silver Knights, Vegas's AHL team, and has come up now as an assistant coach for Vegas. I don't know if it was last year, this year, but I have heard that potentially his name has been out there with some teams. So, like, it's there's a lot of guys that aren't gonna have a job going into next season. It's looking like.
Yeah. Oh yeah, here it is. Joel Ward. He's on the list. He's right below. He's right below Jeff Halpern. I really hope nobody hires him because
I have heard his name. I have heard his name too.
I love having Halpern around, so hopefully we don't lose him. Apparently, Joel Ward is a current assistant of the Vegas Golden Knights.
Yeah. Yeah, and he was the head coach of their AHL team, I think last year or the year before. Which, and again, I think he would be a guy who. He was never. He was just an assistant coach with Vegas's AHL team.
Okay,
and
it was the AHL
came up
team.
to being an assistant coach this season. I think that's another guy who I think could be a great coach for some teams. Like,
I only really have one other name. I find it interesting, and I do want to know your thoughts on it. Sergei Fedorov, who I
haven't even heard his name.
He's been NHL. No, there's no rumors of it, but he has been head coaching, I believe, the biggest team. I believe it's CSKA Moscow over in the KHL for several years. And I mean, so obviously they're the biggest team. They're generally the best team, but it is an interesting thought of him coming over.
Honestly, I think the only way he does is Philly, because Philly's got such a good relationship with the KHL. Like
he's the guy who coined the idea of getting possession of the puck in overtime and then pulling the goalie. He's done that quite a few times over the past few years, and I think he's got like a 60% win rate with it, and the other 40% of the time the other team just scores. Obviously, over there they don't have the rule where you lose points for doing that. So
yeah, well, when you're the best team, like why not? Like if it's an overtime loss, sure, but like that's why they're probably the best team is because they're pulling stuff off like that. Um, Interesting possibility for him to come over. I'm not entirely sure it's ever going to happen. But I mean, if he does, it'd be interesting to see where he would go and then how the team would look. Because obviously, NHL very different from KHL.
yeah, it's very different, and
Interesting
it's just
possibility.
it's one of those guys who's a Hall of Famer. It's just a big name that they would love to bring into the fold if he could be a good head coach.
Yeah. Yeah,
So might be
exactly
one to
right.
keep an eye on over the next few years. See if somebody can convince him. Maybe he starts missing it over here. Who knows? Maybe he's just content to retire over in Russia.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of different possibilities. I'm very excited to see, in the situation, because like a lot of the teams looking for a head coach are in different situations, and it's very interesting to see, what direction these teams take. For. Like, yeah. Like, so I feel like Craig Berube's got to go somewhere. I feel like he's going to be.
Yeah, he's the main
take
one. That
one of the jobs.
He will absolutely land somewhere as long as he wants to.
Assuming if Brendamore goes,
I
think
imagine
go
most
somewhere.
of them want him to. I think if he wants to be an NHL head coach still, he basically gets to pick out of almost all the teams that don't have a head coach right now.
Yeah, well, and it's very possible that's why we're kind of seeing. Yeah, and I think that's potentially a possibility of why we're kind of seeing, aside from the Travis Green one, not some moves being made, is because teams are kind of waiting on maybe one or two guys, waiting to see probably Craig Berube and David Carl, waiting to see what they decide to do, and then they know, okay, we got him or we didn't. Now we got to, figure out what we're doing now.
Yeah,
it sounds like teams are doing their homework though, and interviewing coaches already, and kind of putting together a game plan for how they want to address their situation.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of them are going to happen before even the end of the playoffs. It'll be interesting to see if any of them are doing that in the full off season, like after the playoffs.
Yeah, and again, it's just like when you're, the teams that are available, you've got like San Jose and Seattle who are kind of near the bottom of the league. Like, I mean, Seattle was good last year, but kind of in that, well, San Jose in a deep rebuild, Seattle kind of in a in-between spot. New Jersey, probably a coach away maybe from winning a cup next year and a goalie. And then Toronto and Winnipeg, great regular seasons and bounced in the first round. So maybe a coach can change that. It's just such different teams that are out there for coaches when looking at them.
Yeah. Do we really have anything else? It was kind of just the playoffs and the coaches, really.
The coaches, yeah.
Much else?
Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
That about wraps it up.
Are you doing the leaders, or did you do that last?
We did that last time, and that was only what was it? 2 days ago?
Yeah, 2 days ago. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but really, I'm looking through. Nothing's changed.
Yeah, we can talk about it again on the next one. Only need to do that update once a week, I think.
Yeah, especially with had to wait 5 years for Vancouver and Edmonton to start, and McDavid and Hyman are still at the top of points and goals. So, but that will wrap up everything we have for this episode. Once again, thank you to everybody for tuning in to another episode of the Stick 'em Up podcast. We are coming out twice a week now, as we are in playoffs. Lots of news, lots of coaching things happening, and we want to keep up to date with you guys on that. And if you feel so inclined, you can always follow us on any of our socials. We are on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at SEU Hockey. Come say hi. Come tell us that the Hurricanes have crumbled. If you have maybe suggestions or ideas of where you think a head coach would fit good, feel free to let us know. We'll obviously, this is going to be a thing we're coming back to a lot with these coaches. So maybe we'll talk about them on here and break down your guys' suggestions or something like that.
Yeah, who knows? Well, maybe we'll get a crazy one. Maybe we'll see San Jose pick up Craig Berube or something.
That's the one team I don't think he even touches. Yeah, I don't think he wants to potentially be a fall guy in a rebuild. If they were coming out of a rebuild, maybe, but like when they're like right in the deep trenches, like in the shitters of a rebuild, I don't think Craig Berube wants to, stick around with that for 3 years to then when the team's, finally starting to get there, because I think he'd rather
if
just
they
go
offer
to
him enough money, maybe though.
Maybe,
he really
but
helped some of those guys develop over in St. Louis.
yeah, I think it's just much more appealing looking at.
I doubt he would.
Weather-wise,
it'd be interesting to see one of those curveballs that people don't expect.
Seattle, maybe I could see. Seattle's a very interesting possibility.
He's gonna have to fight Brindamore for it.
Yeah. Seattle honestly might just be waiting to see what Carolina does. But yeah, that wraps up everything we got for this episode. Thank you everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next week.